Big ballers are setting the tone early this college basketball season.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm Kalia Butler. Joined alongside me is Sophia Jones. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, topics we're going over today. Unrivaled has a new developmental pool that they've come up with. Also, some top 25 teams that are going to be in action tonight. But first, we're going to talk about standout performances across women's college basketball that we have seen throughout this week. Obviously, it's still earlier in the season, so a lot of teams are playing teams that are maybe a little bit below them conference-wise. However, we're still getting our first looks at some of the top 25 teams that we will see going ahead into March Madness once we get there a little bit later. But first, we have to talk about Liv McGill from Florida. She went nuts. 38 points, 10 assists, 8 rebounds, a career high for her in their win over Chattanooga. And as a freshman last year, she led Florida in scoring, averaging 16 points. So she is the definition of setting the tone early and showing that she's a sophomore and she learned a lot from freshman year and she is ready to do it to you guys this season.
Exactly. No sophomore slump for Liv McGill. You love when a player can start the season off so strongly like that, especially coming off of a solid freshman campaign. And for University of Florida as well, the SEC is so competitive that you're going to need every ounce of talent in order for your team to be successful. So having a hooper like Liv McGill, I think will definitely help to continue to give Florida a boost. And like what we said, is probably the hardest and strongest conference in women's college basketball.
Yeah, and what I mentioned in terms of her being able to lead the Gators in scoring last season as just a freshman, and then adding your point on top of it, a freshman in the SEC averaging 16 points. And again, we've made it clear that obviously the teams right now are a little bit imbalanced with who they're playing against. But either way, when you almost go for a triple-double, that is impressive no matter who you're up against. So I'm really excited to see her play this season. She looks incredibly healthy. She looks even more in shape than she did her freshman year. You can tell that she has been in the weight room. She is going to have a fantastic season at Florida, and we can see it early. Another one, Notre Dame, Hannah Hidalgo, 27 points in their win over FDU this week. And Vanessa DeJesus, who had 22 points, a career high. She had 4 of 6 from 3-point line in their win against FDU. I think this is a player that you had mentioned prior to Vanessa DeJesus. What did you like about her game?
That she was able to just step into this new role at Notre Dame and really succeed. I think that backcourt duo between her and Hidalgo will be something of note throughout the season. Of course, having lost Olivia Miles, that's whenever you can have someone to take the load off of you a little bit, especially in a similar position, that's always extremely helpful and to just play off of each other. So I think that bringing in DeJesus will really provide a better balance to the Notre Dame backcourt and allow Hannah Hidalgo to have more performances like this, where she has 27 points. And then for DeJesus, starting off the season with a 22-point career high only sets the tone and the bar high, but it is a luxury to have expectations and pressure.
Maybe a lot of perimeter shooting from Notre Dame this season as well. They were 9 from 17 against FDU, shooting 52.9% from 3. They're a very defensive team, which head coach Neil Ivey has made very clear. Obviously, we know with Hannah Hidalgo being a defensive player of the year, they rely heavily on their defense to get them going, to go produce on the offensive end. But they were also playing off one another very well. You mentioned this backcourt duo between Hidalgo and DeJesus. They're going to be a really good threat again this season.
Yeah, and especially when you mention the two-way play of Hidalgo, I think when she is tasked to have that main defensive assignment potentially against another guard, that can sometimes take a toll on you and eat up some of your energy on the offensive end, which is why, again, having a player like DeJesus to really balance everything out, I think will really help because even though Hidalgo doesn't ever seem like she gets tired, I still think that having that just weight taking off your shoulders is always an benefit.
Absolutely. We also got to see UCLA play twice this week. UCLA obviously favored to potentially win a national championship this season, especially because it's kind of a do or die for them. This might be the last chance with all the pieces that they have at the moment, a lot of senior leadership to get it done. But Lauren Betts, 21 points, as well as Gabriela Jaquez had 15 points and 11 rebounds in their win over SDSU earlier. Hawk's first double-double of the season. Then they played again yesterday in a win versus UC Santa Barbara. Gianna Neekins, 20 points. Gabriela Jaquez, 20 points. Kiki Rice in that starting lineup with 20 points, 8 rebounds, came off the bench in the first game due to a minutes restriction for an injury she had. What did you love most about UCLA?
Well, earlier in the week, we saw the Lauren Betts show, essentially, as what we're most likely going to see for a lot of UCLA's offense. But in yesterday's win against UC Santa Barbara, Lauren Betts, she was a little bit more of a facilitator, and the pieces around her really stepped up and they did their job. I was glad to see Gianna Neepkins start hitting some buckets with those 20 points. She didn't have as efficient of a showing in that first game, but she was one of the players I think that we highlighted when we did our UCLA preview, just talking about having her as another scoring option, especially with her 3-point shot, was going to be huge to help space the floor and help Betts in the interior. And Gabriela Jaquez as well. I mean, starting off the season with a double double and then 21 points, she's just such a gritty player that knows what needs to be done for her team and she's gonna get it done. So I literally love her tenacity and how she plays. I think that she is really gonna be the X factor piece for UCLA to get that national championship with their veteran squad. And then with Kiki Rice off that minute restriction back in the starting lineup, 20 points, 8 rebounds. We love a guard that rebounds. So seeing her get back in the flow and not seeming hampered by that injury, I think is as well huge for the Bruins.
I'm really excited to see Sienna Betts get involved, obviously out right now due to injury, but I was just watching an interview with Lauren and Sienna Betts for Slam Magazine. And Lauren was saying that she didn't understand how good Sienna was really getting because, Lauren was at school. They have about a 4-year difference. Sienna's a freshman right now. Lauren, obviously a senior. She said that in high school that Lauren was a little bit on the more quiet side in terms of her leadership, and Sienna loves seeing her kind of blossom into the leader she is now. But it was funny hearing Lauren say, I came back from school, and I think it was Sienna's sophomore year in high school when they had won state. And she was like, she was really good. I was not expecting her to be able to do that on her own. So I'm really excited to see that tandem. I mean, you have 6'7" and 6'4", 6'5" on your team. 2 sisters, one's leaving, one is just getting started. Really exciting to see what the Betts duo is going to be capable of. We also got to see TCU play another duo in Olivia Miles and Marta Suarez. What did you like from that tandem?
Olivia Miles, she brings such a balanced and well-rounded game to her. She finished with 16 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists in their 82 to 43 win over North Carolina A&T yesterday. So you like when you have an efficient game like that, especially when as a player, if you know you can get a bucket maybe every single time, but you know what? Let's actually run through some offense. Let's get other people involved. So you like to see that selflessness early in the season. And then with Marta Suarez, I think she'll be a big presence for TCU as well. transfer from Cal. She finished with 19 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. Whenever you can have an inside outside just connection, it really helps to space and open up the floor.
Well, stick around because we still have more women's hoops to talk about. A lot of top 20 teams playing tonight. We're going to tell you who to look out for. The NBA season is heating up, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching for the highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the bag drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with the Dash Pass the next day. And you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. I love that it's not just food. You can get everything from snacks and drinks to headphones, ice, even socks, and it's getting cold out, all delivered. So next time someone goes off for 50, use promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off DoorDash with Dash Pass. Plus your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only 50% off to $10 the day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash / in your bag all season long. Well, we have some of not only the top 20, but the top 12 teams playing today. Number 8, Tennessee is going to face East Tennessee State. Number 4, Texas against number 24, Richmond. Number 2, South Carolina up against Bowling Green. Number 12, Ole Miss versus Alabama A&M. Sophia, let's talk about that first game, Tennessee versus East Tennessee State. What does that matchup look like to you?
For Tennessee, it's a opportunity to get back on track after they lost to NC State in a really excited game earlier this week. Tennessee, they play so fast. Again, they do the 5 in, 5 out substitutions, which it's your first time watching Tennessee can be like, what is going on? What did they do? Because usually when you see a coach bring in 5 players off the bench, you know that the group that's on the floor messed up in some way. But that's not the case for Tennessee. They just do it because they literally press all game and they play fast, just full throttle 100%. So that's why they do the 5 in, 5 out. But against an East Tennessee State, like I said, it's an opportunity to just get back on track and clean up some things that they saw that didn't work in their first loss against NC State.
Yeah, we want to see that offensive firepower that we know Tennessee has, and a lot of that is fueled from that intensive defense that they have. The 5 in, 5 out is definitely an interesting tactic, but Tennessee is obviously ranked in the top 10 for a reason, so it works for them. Just for execution-wise and some of that late game execution, especially against NC State, and making sure that they're protecting the ball and getting on the boards. But even for ETSU, they had a top 20 scoring defense nationally last season. So you don't want to count them out just yet. This is also another defensive team that they are going up against, and their defense fuels their own offense. So I don't know. You can't count them out too early. I think it could be an exciting game. I feel like there's been a lot of teams that have proven themselves to stay within reach some of these schools for at least the beginning of the game. So maybe they can come out to a hot start and keep it competitive. But then you have Texas going up against Richmond. I think this is going to be a really good opportunity for Richmond, who cracked into the top 25, to showcase why they're in the top 25. Obviously, Texas has a lot of dominant players on their team this season, but this can showcase, who Richmond is, especially with some people that maybe aren't as familiar with this program.
Definitely. And I think whenever you see a mid-major just dominate amongst the mid-majors and get that recognition, to enter the top 25. Now, when you're facing a team like Texas, it's time to back that up. So I think this is a really great opportunity for them against a Texas team that looked really strong in their home opener. But again, they played against a either low major or D2 school. So not really experiencing much oppositional adversity yet, which Richmond could potentially catch them off guard and come away with something. I think this would be probably, if I had to say, my game of the day that I am looking forward to watching.
Yeah, you have Maggie Dugan on the team too, who has shown herself to be a very powerful 6'2" forward. In their debut, she had over 20 points. She had 28 points in their opener against Mount St. Mary's. She's really dominant, and she's another forward that can stretch the floor. She's obviously, like I mentioned, 6'2". I feel like sometimes I'm thinking of the WNBA. I'm like, oh, she's a little undersized. I've just been talking about the WNBA too much. Maybe she's a great size. But when we're comparing against some of these 6'7", 6'5" women in that position, she's technically a little bit on the smaller side. But she's going to be another threat for Richmond as well.
Definitely. And against a team like Texas, where majority of their identity relies on what they can do inside the 3-point line. And I think when you think of the front court players that have come from Texas, like a Kalani Brown, just that stature, it'll be a very good test for her to go up against that Texas size. Like they say, everything's bigger in Texas.
Absolutely. South Carolina and Bowling Green. South Carolina, obviously, out to a really strong start. They have Tanaya Latson, who led all scorers in their last time out. They're playing back at home against Bowling Green. Bowling Green having to go up against South Carolina at home is going to be a tough battle for them, but hopefully they can stay in it.
Yeah, and I think for South Carolina, brings into the question as well. Dawn Staley has been candid about her struggles in trying to schedule teams because certain teams don't want to play South Carolina early on in the season. So they sometimes have to look towards these lower majors. But there are pros and cons to having that weak non-conference schedule. And I think for a team like South Carolina, where it's a lot of new and fresh faces. So this gives them that opportunity to develop that chemistry early on. Some of the freshmen that we've seen get minutes in their first game this week, it's an opportunity for them to see the floor more. So I think this will just be another chemistry building test for South Carolina.
Yeah, you mentioned how beneficial it is for top teams to have some weak non-conference schedules. I know for when I was a manager at DePaul, Coach Doug Bruno loved to schedule his non-conference teams incredibly heavy. They weren't playing a lot of weak teams, maybe like the first game, as you mentioned, chemistry, getting adjusted to the season. And then it was boom, you were playing the top players in the country. But he did that for a reason, obviously a very competitive program for years on end. But I think when we're thinking of the top teams going against weaker non-conference schedules, it can be a problem when these players start to play down because sometimes it's easy to get adjusted to that pace when you're playing a team that's maybe a little bit below you, when you're beating a team 100-32. It's easy to not think of, oh, I'm just going through the motions, but this is really the time that you need to focus on executing most because you're not going to get opportunities like this, for example, in the SEC against maybe a Tennessee or something to just kind of walk through stuff gameplay style. That's not happening against teams like that.
No, and it's also for like a team like South Carolina or LSU, who Kim Mulkey, she usually does schedule a week non-conference schedule because the SEC is so strong. You're gonna get a lot of competition there, but you don't want to be jarred when you face adversity that late into the season. And like you said, you don't want to get used to playing down to any competition. I remember just at any level of playing, there would be certain times where if you're blowing a team out and then the coach is like, you know what, you guys better run the play all the way through. I don't care if something is open early on, run it all the way through. And I want 5 passes before a shot goes up.
Everyone's getting a touch.
So you start to have those things at play as well, which I'm not entirely sure if they are, but it's just one of those things to make sure that you're, as a team, you're staying on your P's and Q's and not just getting relaxed.
Excited to see some of those matchups today. Up next, we're going to talk about Unrivaled's developmental pool and some of the young faces that we could possibly see make their mark in Unrivaled this season.
The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to fanduel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
So this is something new for Unrivaled. They have a developmental pool this season. They're going to have Haley Van Lith, Isaiah James, Haley Jones, Emily Angsler, Leticia, you told me how to say it too. Amihere.
Leticia Amihere.
Leticia Amihere. Sorry, you guys. I know these names. I just have problems with that. Michaela Tipson are all going to essentially be on standby for Unrivaled this season. I think this is a smart addition because we saw injuries impact Unrivaled last season, and then there was players that weren't necessarily there that had to come in, like a Natisha Heidemann, who had to come in a little bit later. Now these players are basically going to be on standby in Miami. They have access to the facility and training. They're available to sign with different clubs if there are injuries or sports. So they can kind of bounce around. Obviously, everything is based within Miami, so they can easily just hop on any roster that needs them and be able to play. But one of the most interesting takeaways from this is not only that they've developed this developmental pool, but that all of them are very youthful players. And I love that they're including all of them. They're all under the age of 25. They've all only had a couple of years of experience within the WNBA, or they're just coming off of their rookie season. I love that when we're thinking of who created Unrivaled in terms of Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart, they are caring so much about developing these young players who could one day be the face of the league. So it's kind of, leaving it better than you had it in a sense.
Yeah, and I love how for like the co-founders like Nafisa and Stewie, they're taking things that they want implemented in the W and doing it in their own league. So roster expansion has been something that players have talked about for a while, and that just development league even or pool that even for the WNBA season, we were seeing constantly players signed to these hardship contracts. And so I think it's a great idea to have this group together to just provide relief to the unrivaled clubs. And really think that these players will have a very good shot at playing in the league and just getting those reps. I'd say I'm really excited to see Haley Van Lith. I know you're very familiar with her with the Chicago Sky, but she was a member of the USA 3-on-3 team for the past couple of Olympics and FIBA World Cup. So that's global experience right there. So I think Unrivaled is really right up her lane.
We saw how well Haley performed in that too. So I know that would translate over really well to Unrivaled. And I'm really excited for Haley to get this sort of opportunity. I've spoke to Haley plenty this season, obviously working with the Chicago Sky. She is such a sweet person. And you can tell she is just constantly trying to get better. And I think one of the most heart-wrenching quotes she ever has was basically saying that, God gave her this destiny, but it's just not working out for her at the moment. Basically, she has this dream in her heart to be great, but it's not, she doesn't feel like she is there yet. I think Haley Van Lith is fantastic. And I just believe she needs this opportunity to develop and showcase the type of player she can be. Even with the Sky, she only averaged about 3 points. She didn't get a bunch of playing time, but you also have to think that she's learning behind a Courtney Vandersloot, a Rachel Banham. It's also very difficult for some players to have that adjustment coming out of college when you're the main option to now being basically the third option, and then still feeling like you can just come into the game and produce right away. That's a difficult ask for anyone. So in terms of things that I believe she needs to develop the most based on what I saw from the Sky, she needs to be a little bit quicker on her feet. I think she needs to go back into not second guessing herself. And this is a conversation that I had with her as well. Not second guessing herself, being a little bit more confident, and just knowing that, the pass that she made is the right one. The drive that she took is the right one. Even if she missed, even if it was not necessarily the best pass, but just having more confidence in her decision making and being a little bit more quick on her toes with it. Because in the WNBA, you don't have as much time to think. She is somebody that she's very ball dominant. She will dribble for a while, but when you have pressure like WNBA players that are coming up to you, she was getting the ball taken from her quite often. I just think it's a confidence thing for her. We all know what she is capable of doing. I now believe that this development pool is really going to help her showcase that and hopefully have a better season when it comes to the Sky in 2026.
I agree. And it's really an opportunity, like you said, for these players to gain more confidence, train more, maybe even get a little bit of a break because they are young and maybe experiencing some of that just fatigue from college season. But I think for players also like Haley Jones and Leticia Amihere, who bounced around a little bit during the W season and then eventually got picked up, this is a great opportunity for them to build these relations with other players and continue to improve and grow in their game so that they have more opportunities in the W. I know for Leticia Amihere, who was on the Valkyries, which is the team that I cover, of course, she was on the training camp roster and she played in the preseason. However, she did not make the final roster, but the team brought her back right around Eurobasket time, and then she stayed on the team for the rest of the season. So I saw a lot of development from her when you talk about someone that has so much athleticism and length. Her strides are so incredibly graceful. And there was even so she dunked in a game in high school, and there was a moment during the Valkyrie season where she was on a fast break, and as she was rising up to the rim, it really looked like she was gonna dunk. Like, me and my play-by-play, Kevin Dana, both agreed we felt like she was gonna dunk then and there, but she just went with a finger roll layup, but she essentially grazed the rim. And I think that's another opportunity that we could see in Unrivaled, where it'll give her the chance to just continue to expand her game. She was South Carolina alum, so we know how much Don Staley emphasizes on growth. So I think this will be a great opportunity for her. She's currently in Spain participating in EuroLeague. So it'll be exciting for her to get a little bit of 3-on-3 action as well.
Listen, between Leticia and Dominique Malunga, somebody better dunk this season, and I need to see it happen live. But I like that you bring up Haley Jones, especially. I also want to mention just Zaza James and Sanaya Rivers. I watched them play firsthand at the ACC tournament when I was at Syracuse. I want them to play together again one day. They are such a fiery duo, and when they are both clicking, they just know how to feed off of one another, and it is such fun basketball to watch. But I also want people to remember who Haley Jones is. Let's not forget she was that girl at Stanford. Everybody was looking to Haley Jones. I don't believe that she is had, that same caliber since leaving college, unfortunately. And, it's difficult when you're bouncing around to a bunch of different teams. You're not on teams for a little while in the WNBA. Then you sign. She had ended up in Dallas. But she always shows glimpses of who she once was in college. I think having her in this developmental pool and maybe just even her being able to get back into her confidence and just more of a consistency of maybe she can hop in and really any of these players be able to prove themselves that they can maintain a spot on these rosters. So when that translates over into hopefully a 2026 WNBA season or wherever they may decide to go afterwards, they're going to show why they deserve to be on a roster anywhere and just what they are capable of.
Yeah, and honestly, like so underrated that they just have access to facilities and training because it can still be a struggle for some of these W players to find a consistent gym and trainer to just centralize yourself and work out it in the off season. So that's a great opportunity right there. I know my trainer that I worked out with growing up, he has his gym literally right next to Unrivaled, Stan Remy. He works out a couple of NBA and WNBA guys like Anthony Edwards, Arike Gumbawale, Mo Billings. So he has a lot of those players in his gym as well. And I will be texting him and constantly asking who is coming through and what they're working on.
Listen, he may have had those players, but he also had you. So obviously he's doing something right down there. But thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We love talking about women's basketball with you. This is Locked on Women's Basketball. I'm Kalia Butler, joined alongside